Not if we finish 10 minutes early.
I like it.
Right?
Sounds like a plan.
I like it.
Pastor, would you open with devotion, please?
Yes. Psalm 30. I will exalt you, O Lord, because you have lifted me up, and have not let my enemies triumph over me. O Lord my God, I cry out to you, and you restored me to health. You brought me up, O Lord, from the dead. You restored my life, as I was going down to the grave. Sing praises to the Lord, all you faithful. Give thanks in holy remembrance. God's wrath is short, God's favor lasts a lifetime. Weeping spends the night, but joy comes in the morning. While I felt secure, I said, I shall never be disturbed. O Lord, you, Lord, with your favor, made me as strong as the mountains. Then you hid your face, and I was filled with fear. I cried to you, O Lord. I pleaded with my Lord, saying, what profit is there in my blood if I go down to the pit? Will the dust praise you, or declare your faithfulness? Hear, O Lord, and have mercy upon me. O Lord, be my helper. You have turned my wailing into dancing. You have put off my sackcloth and clothed me with joy. Therefore, my heart sings to you without ceasing. O Lord, my God, I will give you thanks forever. Psalm 46. Our God is our refuge and strength, the very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth be moved, and though the mountains shake, in the depths of the sea. Though its waters rage and foam, and though the mountains tremble with its tumult. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of the city, it shall not be shaken. God shall help it at the break of day. The nations rage and the kingdoms shake. God speaks and the earth melts away. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. Come now, regard the works of the Lord. What desolations God has brought upon the earth. Behold the one who makes war to cease in all the world, who breaks the bow and shatters the spear and burns the shields with fire. Be still then, and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. I lost my page. Let us pray. Lord God, when we are assaulted by the troubles of life and the deep waters of anger threaten to overwhelm us, do not let us sink. In your great compassion, hear us and help us. Deliver us from anger's power over us. Lead us out of bitter silence and hurtful words so that we may speak the truth in love. Heal every heart set on vengeance and show us the way to honesty and reconciliation. God, our refuge and strength, you have bound us together in a common life. In all our conflicts, help us to confront one another without hatred or bitterness, to listen for your voice amid competing claims, and to do work together with mutual forbearance and respect. Through the one who has shown us both impassioned zeal and forgiving love, Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Does that conclude your devotion?
It does.
Okay. Okay, correspondence.
I have none.
None?
None.
Well, that's a switch.
It all came last month. Because there was a lot.
She brought it home, I threw it away.
Pastor, could you repeat the psalm? Was it Psalm 30?
Psalm 30 and Psalm 46.
Okay. Has everybody had the opportunity to read the minutes from the last council meeting, from our August meeting? Are there any corrections, additions?
I know in the all committee meeting minutes, the congregational dinner, and the letter A, it was just missing an R at the end of dinner. It's a bin.
And where are you, Stacy?
In the committee meeting minutes?
Oh, well, I'm not there.
I'm sorry.
I'm just in the,
Oh,
last,
yeah, my name's spelled wrong too.
just the council meeting.
You're all right there. Is that?
Where's that first?
The
Your
council
name.
meeting dated August 14th.
That's
Must have
okay.
pulled up an old.
I look right over it because it happens all the time.
Okay, if there are no additions or corrections, I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes. George and Pearl Ann, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The minutes are approved.
Now, where are the mistakes?
You left an R off of dinner in your all committee typing,
Oh, my goodness.
excuse me, George.
Yeah. Well,
Darling George. Darling George.
next, we're moving on to the treasurer's report. Stacy, will lead us in the treasurer's report.
Make sure Jen got the right version. From our finance committee meeting, for those that attended that, I found one error, so which I corrected, and yes, I did get it to Jen, so. Okay, the general fund balance at the end of August was $1,645. Our operating income in the month of August was $11,053, and other income was $551. So year to date, that puts us at 81% of our budgeted estimate. Our expenses for the month were $14,194. So we're doing a reasonable job holding our expenses under the monthly budget of $15,622. Year to date, we're at 99.4% of our estimated operating costs, so we're starting to get a little bit under. That might flip around in the last 3 months as our utility bills start to go back up. So the gas bill will go up in November and December as the weather gets colder. So year to date on the income, we're behind by about $23,664. But we're also underspent by $713. Any questions on the top half?
I want to just make the comment that the expenses have been budgeted spot on.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're at essentially 100%. And, you know, I think that's a tribute to the budgeting process, in which Stacy's a big part of. She's the integral part of it, and is very accurate. We have some fluctuations in, especially in utilities with the gas. As she said, I think our gas bill last month was $50-some or
Yeah.
something.
About $50.
Yeah, and, but it can go as high as, you know, the hundreds of dollars. So there's quite a variance there, and over the year it evens out, but I think going forward, we're going to try to project an average, like a 3-year average on a monthly basis, so it'll even be probably more accurate month to month. You can see we started off
Well over budget.
yeah, well over budget, but some of that was first of year expenses. But again, we're spot on as far as our expenses. It's the other side that we're having our trouble.
Right.
Stacy, I was wondering why our income was so much for 2 weeks. Do you know when our offerings were so high? Like on August 6th and August 13th compared to the other 3 weeks?
So typically the very first week of the month is the highest because you have monthly givers, and there's quite a few monthly givers.
Okay.
So usually that first week is the highest,
Yeah.
between $5,000 and $6,000, and then it's between
Yeah.
$1,500 and $3,000 the other weeks,
Oh, it's
just the way-
weird, huh?
right?
You know, to go from 1,600 to 3,400 and then to 3,600, That's unusual.
It
I mean,
is.
I'm thrilled, but. just-
I wish it was 3,600 every single week.
Yeah,
It would be beautiful.
that would be a terrible problem to have.
Right.
Thank you, I was just curious.
Yeah, that's strictly it. People have a tendency to give on a
To
monthly
give,
basis,
yeah.
and it's at the beginning of the month.
Thank you.
All right, for our investment accounts, you can see that there was a very slight decrease in the month of August from the month of July. Basically flat, and that's just due to the way the market's moving around. Nothing changed in youth missions. There was a reduction in Abiding Memorial, because we used funds to pay for the family room improvements. We will be hanging a plaque in the family room, right?
Yep.
Honoring some of those that are no longer here with us as part of that memorial usage of the funds. Detroit Street, really no movement there. Sandusky, the same. I just paid actually the insurance for both of those, the property insurance, next quarterly payment, so they will go down a little bit. And you can see how much the reserve account went down in the month of August. So we are now sitting, well, that was as of the end of August, we're sitting at $21,585.
So
It's actually $1,500 less than the NYC.
it went down 5,500 in the month of August.
Yes.
Okay. Also, on the family center, didn't we withdraw 500 for the high school?
We did,
That came out of the.
but that
family
came out,
We keep-
From the family center.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
yes, we did.
So if you're looking and seeing, wow, that decreased from 36.7 to 32.5, 500 of that was.
A withdrawal,
Yes.
correct. And you'll also note the oddity at the bottom where it says 0% or $0, 10% biblical tithe. It's not because we don't want to tithe to Senate, it's because I forgot to pay it.
You're human?
Yeah, I
Oh
forgot to
my
pay it.
gosh.
So I have already made up for that when I paid August's tithe, and you'll see that reflected on the next treasurer's report, so we'll be trued up.
Do they have a late fee?
No, they're just appreciative that we tithe.
Right, exactly.
So that's everything. You have any questions?
Okay, if there are no questions, I ask for a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
I'll make a motion.
Kathy and Shirley, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And the treasurer's report is approved as submitted. Okay, now we're on to the other minutes from the all committee meeting. And Stacy, you want to restate the correction there?
Yeah, it was at the top of, under social ministries, letter A. It says a catered din, just add it on, in plural.
Yeah. Guess I didn't copy.
Din, that's what my mom used to call it.
Oh,
I didn't move my copy over.
Okay, are there any other corrections? Pastor, do you want to elaborate at all on your report?
No, I think it's all there, just a note of tentative vacation. That's it.
Okay. Let's see, Finance Committee report. I don't see any corrections or additions. Anybody else have a correction or addition to the Finance Committee
Nope.
report?
Nope.
Oh, wait a second, yeah, because, I updated the treasurer's report, that 80.3% of budgeted revenue should be 81%. That's not Chris's fault, that's because I found a mistake later. Three strikes and I'm out, yeah, that's two.
You're gonna get a pass on
Don't
it.
sound so hopeful.
Okay, if that's all the corrections, or I would ask for a motion to accept the all committee report and the pastor's report. George, motions, who's seconding? Michelle? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Those reports are approved. That is correct. Okay, old business, brainstorm questions for listening sessions.
We have
Pastor?
our first listening sessions coming up pretty soon,
This
next
weekend.
Monday. I don't think it's this weekend, but y'all know the dates. So we brainstormed last time with questions for the community, but we ran out of time before brainstorming questions that we'd like to help drive conversation within, Good Shepherd's, listening sessions. So that is what our goal is for this portion. Start throwing out questions that you wanna ask people.
What do you love about your church?
There you go.
Well, you want open-ended questions, you want them to
What's a good opening
evaluate their
question?
thoughts.
What could we do to improve the church? Did we do that already?
No, we haven't done anything with the church
Nope.
itself.
This is
What do you see the mission of Good Shepherd?
That's a key.
Didn't we do some of this last week?
We did it for the new community. This,
Oh, what is this?
this is for
What was
the
it?
internal.
Oh, for our meetings.
Yeah.
They're for your meeting.
Sorry, pardon me.
It's okay. They sound familiar. Just a little different.
How about you?
I would also say, you know, some of the questions we used on the community leaders, things like, you know, how do you see Good Shepherd Lutheran Church as a,
You can.
as part of the community? Or better worded, somebody.
Do you see the church's presence in the community?
That's a yes/no question.
How
Yeah,
do
what do
you,
you-
Wanna avoid yes
how
no
do you
questions.
describe our presence within the community?
Oh, I know. Yeah, describe GSLC's presence in this is one, I am not a teacher.
You
Well,
run
I
out
am
of space?
actually anymore. It's the spelling that I can't do well.
You're a phonetic speller.
Uh-huh.
Hey,
My son
Can
always
you-
tells me I know what it says.
Can you name and describe the ministries of the church? That's a yes/no question too,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
well, if we just say name and describe,
yeah,
then it's a,
Yeah.
it's open-ended question. I mean, it's kinda, and these are just questions to kinda get the ball rolling. Of course, you're more than welcome to move on and elaborate on their answers.
Why did you choose GSLC? off and scratch out my ideas.
People were just born into it and dragged through it.
Not everybody. I wasn't.
I was bad. I was bad.
I came here
You were badgered.
because it wasn't, we were not going to the Catholic Church, which I was a Catholic, he was a Methodist, we weren't doing that either. So I came here with the kids and stayed home.
On the piggyback, what do you see as a mission of Good Shepherd Lutheran Church? What missions do you feel are no longer applicable or are needed in the church, and what missions do you think we should be doing?
I'm gonna put missions and ministries. They're kind of they're synonymous.
Should have a computer.
I know, that's why I said phonetic. No, I like your little describe, because that's how I used to spell it, because I wasn't messing with it.
Oh, boy.
I like it. That's how I used to spell it.
What's wrong with it?
I'm related. Jeez. What?
So the last one was, what missions ministries do you
Oh,
feel we should release or start?
Release
Okay.
or start. Oh,
Kind of along the same lines of the community, let these be starting points and flow from there. But we want feedback.
You know, along those same lines though, they describe Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, Good Shepherd Lutheran Church's presence in the community. About how do you see it in the future in the community?
Yeah, that's a better statement, yeah. That is a better statement.
Or how can we help the community?
Okay, so describe your vision of GSLC in the future, and then especially in the community.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a two-part question.
Should we have a question around
Value.
value? I was thinking more around, I'm also looking at your stuff up there, how do they serve the church currently?
Okay.
I don't want to call people out, that's not the intent, so there has to be phrased the right way. Do you come just to come because you enjoy the church? Do you come because it brings you peace?
Well, I think that wouldn't that be under why
It
you
would
attend?
be, maybe as they talk more, then it would come
Mhm.
out.
So it's a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
There.
So just a little background, I went in and spoke with two of the community leaders, and I had 8 questions,
Yeah.
and it was over an hour.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have more than one person in there, and so we wanna be careful not to have 20 questions or
I
something.
agree, but
But that's why this is brainstorming.
Yeah, I understand.
We can pick a top 5, go ahead.
How do you feel the church has changed since you joined?
It's much more welcoming. Than it was 40 years ago when I came here.
Well, that's gonna be,
They've
that's gonna be
been
unique
tough
to
to
hear
me
people's
for a year, I
perspective.
swear.
Well, there's new members and there's members who have been here for 40 years, so.
50.
I would be interested participated in ministries elsewhere that they would think would be beneficial here?
Something you can bring.
Sure, yeah, I would say,
That would kind of fall under, yeah.
let's go over here.
You didn't find it yet?
You,
I usually take the pictures.
that's a good question. I like that one. Good.
And we're not beyond taking somebody else's ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're allowed to steal ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's all in the name of Jesus.
Rebrand ideas.
There you go.
We happy with this list? Do you think of any other questions?
It's a lot of questions.
Okay.
I think to have, everybody voice what they're thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah, as leaders, you'll be bringing up your own.
Yeah.
And possibly we
Stuff
won't
like
have
that.
time to get through all of them.
Absolutely.
When we were younger,
That session.
we, in Pennsylvania, we had Camp Lutheran. Here you had Camp Moana, Camp Luther. What opportunities could we offer to our youth? We have this mission and education fund. Could we be using that to send kids to a summer camp? Would that be beneficial? How can we better reach out to our youth?
I remember when I was a kid, I went to WLD every year and I got my pay halfway there by my attendance.
Mm-hmm. It's like a
Sure.
scholarship.
Was
If
that
we
like,
get the
was
kids-
that like a one-way ticket?
No, she's back.
It was only Fairview I was able to get home.
That's funny.
So, that leads to another point is, does the congregation know about the different Lutheran resources there are available? But something like that might draw it out, I don't know.
We don't have one question up there about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking to these people, perhaps they have some ideas on how we can get the youth involved. That's where my thinking is where we have to start. If we get the youth involved,
I agree.
then the parents will come also.
Yeah, because the one issue with asking, with sending kids to camp right now would be that there's not parents who want to chaperone, and there's nobody who, because we can't just send them off, you know what I mean? Like, if we're doing it through the church, normally you have to have somebody from the congregation, willing to chaperone.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be an issue, because I know there's not a lot of people, there haven't been a lot of people, even when I was in confirmation, who would want to chaperone and stuff like that.
So maybe the question is how important do you feel the youth is to our church?
Let's see what you wrote first.
Just throwing it out there, what passion
Okay.
or passions do you have around youth activities? How
I'll get to take pictures, but he's done.
important do you feel the youth are to, whoops. It's supposed to be G.
I'm gonna throw this out there.
Okay.
Maybe a little controversial statement, but are we targeting the right things when we're targeting youth?
That's not controversial, I think that's a good point.
Because at a party last night, I heard a comment, churches aren't getting 25 to 45-year-olds.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Guess what they have? Kids.
Right. So how do we,
It's not just us, this was not a Lutheran either that said that.
you're, I don't think I think you're very true, we're missing the whole middle,
Yeah,
we've got we've got the children, we've got our older people, but we're missing the whole in-between great group.
There's like two of us.
Yeah.
There's two in-betweeners and it's Nick and I.
We really don't have
That's-
anything
yeah.
for that group.
Well, like that's why Nick and I are trying to start this youth group, but we need to be able to reach out to them to get them to see it first.
Yeah.
somehow.
Okay.
How important do you feel, do you?
Youth are to GSLC.
And the 25 to 45-year-old parents are taking the children every weekend to
Somewhere
travel sports,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, local sports.
Yeah, that's what we're competing against.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they haven't grown up yet.
right.
The one, their parents.
And it's
parents
just
have
not like
grown
it
up.
was when we were kids, when there were no sports on Sundays. It
yeah.
just
No.
didn't happen.
It's
Yeah.
all
It
on
was
Sunday.
taboo.
It's all on Saturday and Sunday.
And now they have all these travel teams
Travel
that travel
teams.
on Saturdays and Sundays.
I know.
Because there are not enough places in the schools for everybody to play.
That's why I never did travel ball because my parents were like, no, because you miss church. So I never
Well,
did
and
travel
I
ball.
wasn't driving 3 hours away.
That too.
And when it's just not the weekend that we're competing, everybody says, well, what day during the week? 7 days a week, children are busy. Children,
School activities.
Like we can try Fridays, but for 10 weeks out of the school year,
Yeah.
Fridays are for football or Fridays are for basketball.
Basketball.
And it's always, there's every season, every night there's something going on.
right,
Right,
so,
so,
I don't
And we
think,
have families with that age group children,
Mhm.
but they play sports every night of the week or practice or on the weekends, you know.
well, it's just not sports,
And-
it's,
Or whatever,
Yeah,
theater,
yeah.
theater, dance, whatever,
Whatever,
I mean,
yeah.
extracurricular, right?
Right.
And it's not a priority to say, okay, well, maybe after church, you know, we can't be in church. because we have-
So, I mean, we have with this question, how important do you feel the youth are to GSLC? I think that's a very vital question to ask. And then, as well as the 25 to 45 age range. That's important. And then the sub question of that could be,
how do we reach you?
So what would you be willing to release or start to reach this age? These age groups?
this is gonna be a hard one, cause this is gonna be about changing cultural norms,
I was gonna say, this could be crickets.
yeah. It's
So, your some examples can be, well, starting another service, but I'm willing to, not me, I'm a congregant,
yeah.
I'm willing to be there so that these other age ranges aren't there alone. Or I'm willing to drop one of our Sunday services and do something else, go to somewhere else, or have service somewhere else. I'm going to be active in like the youth group. I'm going to make sure my kid is there for the youth group.
Mhm.
Kick them out of bed,
This
in
is
the butt. So these are the examples that you can bring in order to bring out
I was already thinking.
these answers.
Tim was bringing up a good point. So there's a program called the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Okay.
You guys familiar with it?
I was part of it for middle and high school and I just
So
realized
it's
I was
where-
so front of it.
Yeah. So that's where you get in touch with people in the school in that environment.
Okay.
I would be willing on the days I am able and home after work to go visit those FCA groups at the middle and high schools and talk to them because, I mean, I've been friends with the leader for 8 years now, and I'm friends with almost all the leaders.
Excellent. So that would be another one where you can be like, look, I'm willing to do this, but I can't do it on my own.
Right.
Need help.
Sorry, you talking about it just like completely brought it from my head,
You
like,
took one of my ideas.
I think
so.
they're actually becoming, involved in Conneaut through the new partnership with the new youth center. That, Cameron then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Just
think,
because Cama's doing something.
no, but I mean,
doesn't
they're good, they're working within our schools already, so that's a good person to start with here also.
okay. I think that's a good.
That's a lot of questions, so I mean, you, I feel there may be a couple that
Katie.
are more
Yeah.
important, maybe, not
Bring your
important,
phone.
but need to be asked, maybe perhaps more than others, but you're the ones leading these meetings.
That's my email. I won't quit writing.
I'm not gonna erase it. I'm done with that.
Oh, you're not?
No.
So we can picture it.
You can do whatever you want.
I can get most of it, except there's this head in the middle of the second column. We're gonna bring it out of there.
Big giant head.
You need a yardstick to hold
I'm
on.
teasing you, but thank you. You didn't have to.
Do you all feel comfortable now about leading these meetings?
I think it's gonna be a lot of just question starters and it's gonna go up like wildfire.
I got it.
If not, go to the next
I
question.
called the guy I'm supposed to talk to. He doesn't make appointments, I had to send him an email, he'll reply.
To his secretary.
And it's good to push them a little bit, you don't wanna push them too hard, but sit in the silence. That's what we do as pastors too, is we sit in the silence, that helps them think, and more likely than not, they'll get uncomfortable with the awkward silence that eventually comes,
Yeah.
so they'll answer. But,
I do have
Yes.
a question. Me and Shirley were talking about, we wanna put up an easel with a big sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Do we have those? Okay, I know we have one in the youth group, but do we have one in any other place? To write down their answers to, if we have to do diagrams, this is stemming from this and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
There's black easels in the Sunday school.
No, I'm
No,
talking
yeah,
about the
you-
big.
Oh, you mean the metal ones that we have?
No, the big sheets of, the big.
You're talking about the large
Yeah,
paper.
yeah.
Big
Large
tablets.
bags, yeah. Do we have any of those?
we can-
Okay,
We'll either use the youth room one or we'll get
okay,
you another.
okay.
You can take my paper, it's okay.
Okay.
I technically stole it from the youth room already. It was already in there when I got there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good shape.
Are we ready to move on to new
No,
business?
I have a question to ask
Okay.
you, it's old business. You can plug your ears because it's about the rental on Sandusky Street. Why are we not renting it?
Why are you looking at me? It's-
Everybody, I'm looking at everybody. We're talking about the money's going down. If we would have been renting that place since it's done, there would
Is
be
it
more
done?
money.
Is it done? That's the
No,
question.
it's not done, because we were told, we're gonna put this on hold for up to a year.
Correct. We're gonna put it on hold until we have this mission put together, right? And
Which is what these-
that's what our
Which is
plan
what
was.
this is
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Congregational meetings in October 8th.
Well,
Pearl, I'll add to, my answer to you is, I've been a strong advocate of renting that property, but I've been told that we're not going to
at this time.
at this point. I'm a very strong advocate of doing that.
Well, I just think that we should be renting it instead of letting it sit idle. even if it turns out that it gets sold, you can sell the place with a person living in it. You're not gonna,
Actually, that's a selling point.
and the bad part about that is when you get ready to sell it, you've got a hoarder living there, and there's nothing you can do about that except evict her, and is that the right thing to do? Well, you guys could just think about it. If it's gonna sit idle for 2 years or something, I don't think that's a good idea.
I never thought that was the plan, to let it sit idle for 2 years.
I would think if I was in the congregation, I'd be saying, why aren't we renting it?
You are in the congregation.
I mean, if I was sitting out here and we're talking about deficits and things, I would be thinking, why aren't we renting it? It just.
Do y'all know I haven't pulled anything from the rentals in the last 2 years?
No, I did not know that.
I pulled no money from the rentals in the last 2 years. So we have not relied on them at all to pay our bills.
Well, that's because we're taking it from the reserve account.
Because we're taking it from the reserve account and because we had the buffer from the payroll protection loan. That
Right,
is correct.
right. Now, if you look at the, this month's treasurer's report, we had other income, which really was 100% hall rental of $575. If Sandusky was rented, that would be an additional, say, 800 or 900 on top of that.
I do have a question, Stacy.
Uh-huh.
Prior to the 2 years, were we relying on the rentals to supplement our income?
On occasion, not that frequently though. I had a report that I had run
Okay.
prior to COVID, even before that.
Okay,
We had stopped, but it was maybe $5,000 to $6,000 a year tops we were pulling out of the rentals to
Okay.
support operating
okay,
expense.
so it was not a lot.
On average, I mean, it
Okay.
oscillated, but that's average.
Can I put this question out to Pete? Can I put this question out to,
No?
okay. I'm going to anyways, to the members here. Do we want us and the congregation members to become dependent on this money? Or do we want our congregation to have faith that God will provide?
From a pastoral stance, I'd want to have faith. From a real sense, I'd say to have faith too.
That's what I'm asking you, I mean, it's nice that if we need it, it's there, but we've become, the church has a long history of becoming dependent on other people, other solutions to keep our finances where people think they should be. Personally, if come December 31st, we have 1 cent in our checking account, our doors are open, our lights are on, and we're doing the ministries of this church, I'm good with that.
Yep.
I'm good with that.
Did our job.
We did our job. We have been very blessed in this church. We have a lot of money in this church. And it's all been through gifts that were guided by God. God tells us we're not to hoard our money. We need to stop depending on other people. And we need to start believing that faith will get us through. Our Fishes and Loaves ministry is a prime
Our entire
example.
church is dependent on people.
Right, I mean,
Offerings and
well,
everything, everything in the entire
But
church
I'm
is
talking,
dependent, we
it
don't
used
have
to
a.
be Escalade Road wrote us a check. Now we become dependent, we wanna become dependent on the rentals. Why can't we just have faith?
I didn't say that we need to be dependent on the rentals, but that's the reason that we got those rentals. Because Estelle and Grow kept this church going when Pastor.
We got the rentals, my understanding, and I wasn't here when the rentals started, but my understanding is we got the rentals to pay the mortgage on this part of the building.
That's
Well,
what I had heard as well.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
That was
Not
always
exactly. It all started with the Detroit Street property. That came to us when Sally Salampa had to go into assisted living. Her son David was putting it up for sale. He offered it to us first because we already owned the parking lot over there and a little bit of extra land. So he came to us, and we didn't have the idea that we were going to be landlords. The circumstance presented itself, and we said, yes, we're going to buy that, because we had a vision of a family center. That family center didn't happen, but we then said, okay, we have a residence, why don't we rent it out? And we did. Then we said, gee, this was working out for us, the duplex became available, that was purchased. And so we didn't say we have a mortgage that needs to be retired, let's go find some rental properties. This Salampa property came to us as an opportunity, and we took advantage of it. Then we sought out the Sandusky Street property. And that has worked, all of these have worked to a certain extent. Yes, they've been mismanaged. Yes, we've put the wrong people in there. You learn from your mistakes. As I've said many times, I am strongly in favor of managing those properties correctly and using the income. Michelle, we all have faith, but the record speaks for itself. Our stewardship, I'm not saying these people are faithless, and I hope you're not saying that.
no, I'm not saying that.
But the record speaks for itself. The offering income does not support our budget. Last year we missed it by over 25,000. We're going to miss it by over 30,000 this year.
Okay.
You can't survive indefinitely with deficit spending. You're going to reach the bottom at some point. Maybe that point is a long way off yet, but you will reach that
Isn't it
eventually.
also possible that something will happen before that long way off happens? Another,
But that's not a
More
plan. That's not a plan.
Still
We
not.
need to be planners.
And
Hoping that your ship comes in is not a plan.
I don't think that's what we're trying to do, Mark. I think part of what these listening sessions are is so that we can decide what that plan looks like, and if it involves the rental properties, fantastic.
So be it.
So be it, and we will move
Well,
forward.
is that a question that we should be asking at these listening sessions? Should we address the rental property issue?
Well, the thing of it is it doesn't make any difference. We can go to the congregation, agreed at 100% that we wanna sell the rentals. But if the congregation votes that they don't want to sell the rentals,
Then
They've spoken.
they've spoken.
yeah.
And that's what I keep thinking about us going back and forth.
Mhm.
We can take it to the congregation if we're divided, because all people don't think the same ways.
We would just have to, if we did that way, be
You would
very
have to-
clear on the
Exactly.
options and the
Exactly.
outcome of the options, expected outcomes.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
And I've heard several times said here that this church is not a business. But if you don't run in a business like Manor, you get in trouble. You gotta pay your bills, you gotta do this, you gotta bring in income, you gotta put out your outgo. That's a business. Even if we don't wanna run it as a business, if you
It is.
don't manage a business or a church like a business, then you would, if you just go willy-nilly about it, doing whatever, if you look at a business and how a business is run and how a church is run, they're very similar. It's not a business to make profit, but you have to make decisions that are not harmful financially.
Administrative decisions.
Correct.
I agree, it's just a wholly different type of administration than it is in a
Right.
corporate world.
Right.
Could I ask that we reel this in and
Yes.
get to the point where we say, okay,
Yeah,
Mark,
I
maybe
didn't intend to,
whether we're gonna rent them or sell them or whatever we're gonna do, we have to finish that side of Sandusky Street.
Mhm.
Is that, Fair?
Boy, it's fair.
No
It's
matter which way
absolutely
we
fair.
go? I mean, why wouldn't we finish that side of Sandusky Street? I guess that's the simplest of questions.
Okay.
Anybody against not finishing that side of Sandusky?
Well, I didn't think that was, just because we decided not to run them, doesn't mean we decided not to finish repairing them.
I didn't either, but let's just
Okay.
decide that we're gonna finish
Oh,
it.
it needs to be, it needs
Are
to
you
be.
talking about the side that has been started,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
almost
so it needs to be
Yeah.
finished?
finished.
Not the other one with
Right.
the border?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It needs to be finished.
What I find is inconsistent in our practice is that we are glad to have the income from Fellowship Hall. But when it comes to these other properties, we're saying that doesn't fit our church. We even changed our alcohol policy. Part of the reason for it was to attract more rentals for Fellowship Hall.
And we put in air conditioning to attract more people to the fellowship hall.
The difference is you're
But
bringing
we
people
didn't put
into
it
the
in our
building.
sanctuary where
Right.
we need
Mhm.
people.
We're bringing people in.
Into the.
That's another discussion.
I know, but I'm just saying.
That's
That's
the
the house,
difference.
you can't be there the whole time right there.
Okay, Pearl Ann, you raised the question, thank you.
Mhm.
Is there any further comment about that?
No,
Nope.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay, I would like to move on to new business. And the Finance Committee met yesterday,
Yes.
and we hammered out a budget under guidance from Synod in a large part. As I said earlier today, our expense budget is really spot on for the year. And we made some estimates last year that have, I printed this out. I have.
Oh, okay.
We made estimates last year. You know, salaries and benefits are pretty easy because once you decide what those salaries are gonna be, it's just a function.
Mark, you said you printed it out, but there was one correction that George sent back to me, so take one of the copies I sent around.
Well, they were short a copy, that's why I,
No,
I
no.
just passed
She
it
just
on.
passed them back.
No, I
We were
printed it
short
alone.
on this side.
okay.
Thanks.
One of the main things about this budget, one of our biggest expenses is utilities. And I won't say surprisingly, we accurately forecasted what our electric and gas telephone was going to be.
Pretty close.
It looks like it's going to finish, based on what we've used in the past, it's going to be very, very close to what we estimated. And we made some changes yesterday for the coming 2024. Because we know that we have at least another year of those rates that we locked in for a 3-year term. That's a big item. We know, well, we don't know exactly, but the insurance policy this past year, we were expecting a 15% increase. That didn't happen. Part of that reason why it didn't happen was that we increased our deductible. And, but our insurance premium didn't go up all that much this year. Will it go up more next year? Perhaps, but we're not having the same well, I shouldn't say hyper, but high inflation that we had in 2022. So I don't expect there's going to be a lot of pressure on our insurance premium. But this is the budget that we hammered out yesterday. And I have a fair amount of confidence that it's pretty accurate. The unknown side is the income side, the offering side. As
Right.
we've been experiencing, well, our churches have always experienced issues with offerings. So Stacy, do you want to lead us through this?
Absolutely. I'm gonna just highlight the significant differences from 2023, so that we don't spend time going line item by line item like we did yesterday. Otherwise, that's a 2.5-hour meeting. So one of the things you'll see is that worship and music went up by overall $1,400. That's that second kind of grayish box.
Mm-hmm.
And that's strictly because we've recategorized some things into how they're gonna be charged out in terms of the general ledger account. So overall, like bulletin paper and ink and everything that we were using to print bulletins was being charged to office supplies, it's now being charged to worship supplies. So it's just a bucket switch, okay? Let's see here. What's that?
Yep.
Oh, the 220, yeah, it's 225. Again, that's pretty minor. The next significant change is in staff salaries. So what the finance committee did, for those of you that aren't aware, Synod in May had gone through the process of approving the new compensation guidelines for pastors. They review this annually. So I had the opportunity to read the 34 pages of boredom to figure out how to run this worksheet for the pastor's compensation. What came out of this and what we agreed to is reflected in the 2024 budget. So you'll see the base salary went from 33.2 to 39. Housing allowance did go down, but the sum total is what was important and what came out of here. And that's just strictly the housing allowance is how the pastor designates that to offset his housing expenses.
Stacy, I want to make a comment about the Synod's recommendation for the salary. They recommended a cost of living allowance of 8.7%.
I was getting there, yeah.
Because of the high inflation. That's quite a jump. 8.7, call it 9%. That was Synod's guideline. It didn't originate here.
I believe that that's what the guidelines were when everybody got a raise on their social security.
Yeah, so
Close
the
to
federal,
that.
that's the federal COLA, 8.7%.
I didn't get anywhere near that.
Yeah, me neither.
Anyway,
Anyway,
get social security.
but what you will also see
My paycheck either.
is we put in raises for the remainder of the staff as well. Based on when's the last time they had a raise, their job description and level with what's, a standard wage for what they're doing. So both Bobby and Jim got an 8.7% raise recommendation. Jennifer's was, I don't have it written down.
4.
4%, and I believe Mary's was 3.
We looked at Mary's hourly rate. She said she puts in between 4 and 8 hours a week. And so we used 6 hours as an average and looked at what her income is. And we came up with an hourly rate that we thought was fair. And we increased it by 3%.
Yeah, fair and competitive with what you would see from somebody doing the same type of job.
And just a further note, we gave no increases except to pastor last year. Bobby, Jim, Mary got no increase for 2023.
So. I know, that's it. So all of those changes come to a sum total difference of $6,247, round numbers. Okay? Benefits pretty much correspondingly go along with that because the church's responsibility for the half of the FICA goes up when you give somebody a raise. The auto expense went up only $100 just to reflect what we're seeing this year. We had no idea really where it was really gonna go. Keep in mind that in previous years, the pastors just got a $4,000 car allowance, so this is actually still a savings over where we were in previous years. Let's see, professional expenses went down, so that increase totals $1,356. Okay? Property. Only a $929 change. I think George did an awful lot of homework. He came month by month with what his projections look like for next year and what they want to do. So I feel fairly confident in what he presented. And Mark already talked about how we're doing on electricity and gas and that we've been pretty accurate on where we were on our estimates and feel that this is where we're going to end up in 2024. Water and sewer has gone up. City of Conneaut's charging more now, and now that the church has been open and COVID is over, we're actually using more water, so the bill's just been higher. We're going to end up higher than what we budgeted for this year by the end of this year. Any questions on the property side?
On the telephone, you can see a significant savings of $330. That's because we're canceling the Yellow Page ad. It's about $33 a month, or it's $30-some a month. We feel as though people don't really use the Yellow Pages to find church
Facebook,
information.
Google,
Or anything.
Internet.
Yeah, it's quicker.
It is quicker. Under parish administration, you can see that decrease in office supplies that I talked about, that got moved over to worship supplies. There is a new line item. It's called pastor's discretionary. So previously, we had a separate checking account, that was fed money periodically for, the discretionary spending from the pastor. And that's, somebody comes to him in need, he has a coffer of money available to be able to help that individual at that time. So it truly is his discretion when it's applicable to use it. We decided to put it into the general fund because we were just moving money around and it was like playing the shell game on what we were doing. So this gives it some visibility. So the finance committee felt, and after what you've experienced for the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, that $900 a year was a fair amount to provide the pastor for discretionary spending. It typically is an outreach and help,
It is, very much.
okay? Postage flat, copier contract's still there, and that's flat, everything else is flat.
Extra 30.
I just took the 370 times 12 months, it was a rounding thing.
Yeah.
Cause they keep adding those $1.50 surprise fees.
I remember.
Okay.
What is one call?
One call is the robocall system and email system, when you get all your messages. It went up in 2023, that we actually ended up spending, where is it at, one call? $840, I expect it to go up again, but earlier this year, the pastor had identified an alternative that was cheaper, so we kept the budget flat, because we gotta wait till our one-call subscription is up before we've changed anything. If that's the direction we go, maybe we can
Yeah.
use that as leverage to negotiate with one call, you never know.
Plus, we're also waiting on getting info sheets back.
Yeah,
If
for
you
the
know
roles.
somebody who hasn't filled one out, really need them filled out. You know, somebody who comes regularly, who hasn't filled out an info sheet, really need it filled out, or else they're gonna be missing out on some things.
You know, fill ours.
New Year's.
I didn't. I think it's the same as last year, just go get out.
It isn't, there's more questions on it.
There are questions
I
on
don't
the
know,
back.
I don't know if I have them.
Fill out the whole thing.
They're up
Or-
They were
They're all
sitting
in
on
our
the table, we
table.
signed in for service.
You can also put them there in the basket there.
Alright, finance charges, I left the $30 there, that's to pay for things like checks, or like bank fees, I'm sorry, we don't buy checks, the finance charges, where was it? Where's Bud, he left.
That's that, EFT.
Oh,
EFT
EFT
charge.
charges, thank
EFT
you.
is electronic funds
For the
transfer.
people that give electronically, it's like a credit card fee, they charge us a couple bucks a month for those deposits to process them. Senate Assembly fees were flat, administrative expense flat, which you'll note on the benevolence. So what we did last year is we said, okay, our expenses are 170 and 10% of that is 17,000 or whatever the number is, then we just added it in. What I did for the 2024 budget is said, let's reflect where we're actually spending in benevolence. Let's factor in the fact that we're not getting all the revenue and not overstate the budget. Does that make sense? So if I only get $11,000 in giving, I only send Senate $1,100. I don't send them what our budget was, which is $1,500. So that $14,500 is what we've actually been getting over the last year and a half average. Mark, George, Pastor, did I miss anything?
I don't think so, I think you covered it well.
So sum total, it's a net increase of $6,040. So we did save in some areas to offset the increases in the salaries and the benefits, but it's still an overall increase. Questions, concerns? Because this is what we will have to present to the congregation, so we have, as a council, have to be aligned with what this budget says.
Shirley, when we were meeting yesterday, I recalled that when we were hiring Jen, you had surveyed administrative assistant salaries in the Erie area, didn't you? And we're showing now at, 16.6 is our recommended. Is that pretty much in line to your recollection
Yes.
For 20 hours.
Yes, it is, for the 20 hours.
for the 20 hours?
Yes. In fact, I think it's generous.
Generous,
A little,
Yeah.
you know,
okay.
Okay.
You're comfortable with that number?
yeah.
If you remember, we had 2 people in the office before, and now Chris proved one person could do it, and Jen's doing an admirable job. Correct, Pastor?
Yep.
She's doing an admirable job handling it on her own. Now, Chris is still the financial secretary. She and others come in and do the counting and keep all those records. But that's a non-paid position, which we're fortunate to have Chris with her experience and her tight lips. Yeah. Between Shirley and Chris, there was never any kind of suspicion of divulging what people offer to the church. And that's the way it must be.
It's still that way.
It is
I was gonna say, isn't it still?
Hasn't changed.
still very much that way.
Are there any further comments or questions about the proposed budget? Okay, we had a special meeting because we needed to rush this for tonight's meeting so we could approve it and then submit it to the congregation on October 8th. And they will have 2 months to look at this, think about it, study it, ask questions, make comments, whatever they want to do. They'll have ample time to become familiar with this.
Right.
And, I want you to be familiar with how some of these decisions were made. As I said, Synod said a COLA of 8.7%. That's very significant.
Well, it's more than the 8.7%, so
Right.
there was 2 different ways to calculate the pastor's salary. One was with the COLA that you were referencing, with some adjustments, and it's not applied to the whole salary. There was a calculation to factor out the housing allowance. The other way was the old way of taking what they say is the base salary of $61,000 and going in and saying, well, he's been in the current call for 2 years, add $800. Oh, he's been in ministry for 2 years, add another $800. And we ended up within $200 of the same number through both methods. So I have a feeling that might have been by design. on the
I think so,
worksheet,
probably.
But the COLA recommendation is the federal number, so it's not like Synod made that up.
Any further questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? No, I need a motion to accept the budget as presented,
The draft budget.
the draft budget. I think George raised his hand. You're second,
Doesn't matter.
Berlin? Now, any further comments? If not, I call for the vote. All in favor of the proposed budget, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. This budget's been approved. It will be printed and distributed to the congregation.
Send me an email.
Yeah,
Sure. Did you have the updated number?
I'll email it to you and Jen.
Gotta have it. Salary.
Pastor, do you want to, lead the discussion on the October 8th meeting?
Sure. So as part of our constitution is to have a meeting the second Sunday in October, and which falls on October 8th, because the first is a Sunday as well. And so it's coming on up. As part of this meeting is to A, present the budget, B, list and nominate anybody for vacant council positions, and then, well, one thing that is still coming up in our new business is the discussion and approval of Constitution Synod revisions. I sent y'all an email, but I'll kind of sum it up about the Synod revisions. So we are responsible and required to send our Constitution, our governing documents, to Synod for their approval, so that we are in line of both the ELCA and the Synod. They have contacted us back, and I sent you the email that they sent us with a couple that are more immediate and a few that are not. So we need to, at this annual congregational meeting, just review and approve these Synod revisions, and then if there's any other businesses of the church. The only thing we'll vote on is, in October, is the revisions to the Constitution.
So I was confused because it read like they've accepted our Constitution as it is.
Because if they didn't, we wouldn't be able to function as a church.
Correct.
Or at least we'd be in non-compliance with the Synod and the ELCA. So yes, they have accepted it, but they accepted it kind of on the conditions of we make these revisions.
We make the revisions,
Especially the ones that they have the most
And then
concern
the-
about.
and then they will accept the new one, but then I read further too, that going forward, we need to make sure that we send it to them before we request.
Because
Congregational.
this last budget revision was so massive,
Yeah.
there was a lot of areas that needed to be edited. They
Constitution.
recommend that it goes to them first before we take it to the congregation. And same with any other revisions that we need to do.
Which is a good idea.
It is, because
Yeah.
they're the experts on these.
Exactly.
Living one?
Yep.
Right.
So there was 3 immediate concerns, if I remember?
2.
2, okay. I read the email.
Yeah, 2 immediate concerns, which we can talk about when we're at that point in the meeting.
Yeah.
We just need to first set up an agenda for the 8th meeting. You'll see on page 2 of your council packet a draft agenda, which doesn't include any prayers at the beginning or at the end. Which needs to be in there. Any questions, concerns about this draft agenda? Any other business that you'd like to put on to this agenda?
Yes, oh, not, this is new business.
No.
The agenda, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I would like you all to think about maybe, since the rumor mill, you know the rumor mill in the church?
No.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Okay, well, we had a sermon about that, and so I asked questions, and I have more questions. I want to know why we cannot help pastor get a house. We've helped other pastors, and he's far away, he can't get a decent place to rent. And I think that maybe we should consider helping him get things together so he can live a little closer to all of us.
I don't disagree with you, but I was gonna say, don't we have to settle this
That's also.
Oh, I'm sorry,
First.
I thought, I didn't hear what he said, I guess.
Oh, sorry. We're still on the agenda for
Okay.
congregational
Okay,
meeting.
well, that's fine.
But you can start thinking
You
about the
can think
answer
about
right
that
now.
too.
Thank-
She's ahead of us.
I just may not be there next month.
Pastor, do you have anything else to add to these revisions?
The only part of revision was opening and prayer, closing and then Lord's Prayer. That's the only part of the agenda that is not on there.
Mhm.
I think that's it.
It's fine with me.
Just wanna make sure I don't forget anything. Otherwise I have to add it, take a break. Let's see here.
So, one thing that I want to ask a question about that I saw in here was, we're going to have everybody sign in as they come in to the sanctuary for the meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, that'll help us get a quota number and, really just help us get a quota number and see who's attendance. Yeah, oh, to review financial status. Well, that could be under presentation and discussion of the budget.
It would be a prelude to the budget. Here's where we are today, here's what we see in the future. Think about it.
Mm-hmm. Different words, but that's,
Pastor, do we need to approve those revisions tonight?
yeah, so we need to approve the agenda. All you have is a draft right now, before it's done up.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to approve these revisions. Pearl Ann, we have a second from Taylor. Any further discussion? If not, call for the vote. All in favor of those revisions, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. It's been approved.
Excellent. Okay, so discussion and approval of constitutional synod revisions. Back to what we were talking about. The first one is is seen as a error, as, what did I say, not in the current final, but was approved, blah, 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 blah. And in an adherent oversight, I just wanna make sure that we are happy with that. So, if you wouldn't mind, turn in your playbooks to the Constitution. If you have your folders with you, you should.
Yours.
It is in chapter 9 regarding rostered ministers, section 5. Or if you have an email. Okay.
Section 5.
Section 5, chapter 9, section 5. And it'd be number 4 is the one that they recommend or basically require removal. If you notice in your constitution, there's asterisks as well. Those are the ones that we cannot change. So what the model is what it is.
You have to get rid of number 4.
Get rid of number 4. Yep. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. Not number 4. It's number 3, the second part of number 3. Not number 4. Mine bad. I didn't put the number on there. The second part after local conditions. So without reflection on the competence of the moral and spiritual character of the pastor. Please remove that. go to your playbooks to chapter 8. Section 6-601. Their concern is if this ever comes to shove ruling about who are members and who can cast valid votes, could require members to disclose their tax returns to the congregation. Because we have said young adults are still claimed as dependents on their parents or guardians who fall under the tax filing for their parents or guardians, will be considered part of the family giving unit as long as the parents or guardians retain membership and meet the constitutional provisions. Their suggestion was to consult an attorney or other ways, or reword it so that they can be, so we don't have to force them to show us their tax returns. It is not our business to see anybody's tax return.
Yeah, it's different than medical insurance or any of the other things, because that's, I think, during the discussion, when we put that in there, wasn't that part of the,
Correct. That's
Right.
what
Am
that's
I
how I
off?
remembered it, Stacy, yes.
yeah, we're like, well, you can be on your parent as a dependent until you're 26. Yeah, I know that's what started the discussion, but I understand what they're saying.
Yeah. You could have a problem with that.
Well, if they want us to have, or they think that we should have an attorney review it, how can we come up with a similar thing
Well,
without having an attorney do it?
I would just remove
Just
the
leave it off, period?
young adults who still live with their parents or guardians
Reside with them, yeah.
reside,
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, the fact is, if they decide that they want to lie about it, they're the ones that are going to pay for it someday. So.
True that.
So just take it out.
So we can just take it out.
We can remove
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
section altogether.
I think that was our ad, wasn't it?
It is.
It was our end, yes.
Anything that's an additional that has the 01 or 02 or whatever after the
Yeah.
0 section number
Yeah.
is our addition.
So that entire section 01 could be deleted. Is that what we're
It could be
saying?
if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Okay.
Why not?
Remove that altogether. Those are the two sections that they were really concerned about. There's a few others that they would like some clarification on, or should recommend that we put clarification in our constitution. In chapter 5 chapter 5, who's the saying of which book? The Bible. The powers of the congregation, we have it written in there at section 05 that the endowment fund will operate as specified in the congregation's continuing resolutions. We actually don't have any continuing resolutions that run off that, or at least those that we submitted to them. I think the policies are the continuing resolutions that we have, but the endowment, I don't believe, is part of these continuing resolutions.
So is this something we added?
Yes, well, yes.
But I see it's underlined. I don't know why